Donald, or would you mind starting the camera? So we can see the back of Julia's
We're good.
head. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can you make sure that your phones are on silent or turned off? Okay. All right, seeing that there's no one for public forum, we're gonna move on to Mrs. Zach.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was only her name, I didn't even see you.
We have Oliver DeFelice here. We also have Shannon Brett together.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so Pizza Play.
Okay, so Pizza Play is an annual event. It's at OCC every year. It was originally established in 1987 to as a means of foster education in the ceramic arts in Syracuse schools, and it's pretty much all of it Northern County and Southern Tier now. When we went just this May 5th, we were up against 26 schools. So when they first started, it was about 12 schools, and now they're up to 26 schools.
Students from over 25 participating schools, like she said, cover the quad at OCC Onondaga Community College. This was a photo from a few years ago, and because of COVID, they did have more groups that participated. I think in one year we were up to 36
Yeah.
schools, and then we're getting back in the swing of things after COVID now.
And these are really fun. Normally they have drones that go over, and the kids always like wave this year. They like hovered over all of us. So I think this was what, 2016 or 2000? Yeah. So there's always 6 events. It's the same 6 events, which is really cool because then our kids can practice those events. So right off the bat, we have the cylinder stack. It's 1 box of clay for 50 pounds. It's 10 minutes. There's 4 members. They have to stay in sync, so whoever's first has to be first, second, third, fourth. If they break that sync, we're instantly disqualified. It's the tallest tower. So you can see we put like sportsmanship from all players, not just those in the events. It's crazy because everybody gets so hyped up in it, and everyone's like screaming like bloody murder, and it's such a fun event. Like clay's going everywhere, and it's not a sport event where everyone's like rooting like go 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 go. Like even if you're doing so poorly, it's so fun to watch, and it's so fun to like be a part of that everyone's cheering. And I circled these 2 students in the back because these 2 students are very, very shy. They don't like to speak. They don't like to participate. So like I caught that, so I made sure that I like zoomed in so that I could show them that like we know you have school spirit.
The next event is the mug production. That's again 1 box of clay, similar to the cylinder stack. However, students have to throw the fastest mug in that 10-minute time slot. This year we had 33?
No, we had 32.
32 mugs that qualified, so we came in first for this event.
Wow.
And you can see with this video, should I click it?
If I had like, yeah, I don't know. Last year we also came in first for this event. So, and what's crazy is that while we're doing this, all sorts of students from other schools will come over and start counting our mugs, and they'll just hover over our tent, where like our students will go and just stare them down, because everybody comes over. So for 2 years now, we've won first on this one. And then, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Holy moly. This is insane.
So they have to make 4-inch mugs, and you have to have a handle on it, and you have to be able to put your thumb through. I'm not sure why it's glitching like this. That's not what it does. Is that
It's just because you're trying to show us.
Keeps it entertaining.
And so the judge will come, and like if it's not 4 inches, it automatically gets scrapped. They're super, super picky about it. So we probably had like 3 or 4 mugs that didn't work. You don't want to.
It was glitching. I mean, I can try it again, but.
I don't know if you need to load maybe. So again, they have to stay in sync if they break any kind of order. Do you want me to sign in mine?
No, I think it's this board. It was the cord issue that was in my room.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, we can't keep watching the rest of this one.
But it's really cool, you guys.
Quite fun.
So no hands is 25 pounds. They have 10 minutes again. It's for team members. This is a fun one only because they're not able to use their hands. So they're able to use their arms, they're able to use their face, feet, whatever they want, but they can't touch the clay with their hands. If they touch the clay with their hands, they're disqualified. So this is a really, really good one that shows teamwork, because you can see like in the last photo, this is what we call Power Ranger, where all the students have to use their forearms and then interlock their arms so that they can make a cylinder. And they have to make, like, the very first photo is the ideal dish that we're trying to make is pretty much an upside down cone because it's the height and the width. So it's how the students are able to work together to make the tallest and widest vessel, I would say. But it's fun because if they have like a ballet's foot, we can help, like they can hold each other up, put their foot down. So again, it's just a fun event to watch. It's goofy, like there's no, you look so cool in this. You look a hot mess the entire time that you're doing this. And it's a fun energy, it's a fun vibe, and the kids dig it. No.
Technology, it's me. I have like. Okay, you can see here some images from that no hands throw. That progression. So like Shannon said, it's a 10-minute event, and everybody is just crowding around, watching the 4 people that are in the event participate. And again, those quiet students that we have that usually are just focused in on their artwork, when they come to this event, they really open up their shells, and it's an amazing experience to see everybody getting along. And with these events too, we were holding practices from 3:30 to 5:30. Shannon was doing it 2 times a week, and then the week of the event, I think you had it 3 times a week. We created our t-shirts as well. That was a team bonding. And everyone that morning dressed up. You're going to see a few images of our team spirit here in just a few moments, but it really is a team sport, and we do it starting this year. We started in January. Yep.
So the blindfold throw, that's only 5 pounds. It's 2 members, and it's 5 minutes. And this again, you're relying on teamwork. The person that is throwing is completely blindfolded. In this case, it's Oliver right here. The other person is guiding them, so they're completely relying on their assistant. So you really have to have a really good bond with that person. It's tough if you were to sit 2 people down. I'm sure you could absolutely do it. You would never be able to do it in 5 minutes. But again, it's who can make the tallest cylinder. So in this case, Oliver and Katie, Oliver would have to sit down and listen to everything Katie's saying. So if Katie's saying you're starting to like elephant trunk, that means that the vessel is starting to like go down and start to swing kind of like an elephant trunk. So then Oliver has to know immediately how he has to cone up, how he has to center it, how everything has to be before he can move on. So they have to be in sync, and he has to be blindfolded the entire time for it to work. I would love to show the video, but now I'm nervous that...
Oliver, did you want to talk about your experience with that?
Well, when it comes to blindfold throw, I personally find it as one of the best parts of it. I mean, I was partially deaf throughout this because of the screaming in my ear constantly. So it was mainly just feel of the clay, but all in all, it's a very, very pleasant experience.
Can I ask a quick question? What is throwing? One throwing and one assistant. What is?
So Oliver in this case is the one that's throwing on the wheel. So Oliver is sitting at the wheel. It's just like a ceramic term.
So anytime
The
you're
one
making
that's
something on the
yes,
wheel, you're
doing the-
throwing.
Yep.
So that motion of making, creating on the wheel is throwing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then the assistant in this video or photo here is Katie. So Katie wasn't allowed to touch the wheel at all. So Katie couldn't assist except for verbal.
Your hair looks fantastic.
Thank you. I woke up at 4 in the to do it. On a pair of spraying wood.
Yeah, looks very
Did you hear
tall.
wood glue?
Yeah.
Wood glue.
Wow.
Dedication.
Yeah.
5 hours to get that out.
Oh.
Maybe if I don't make it large.
Wow.
Do you want that? Hands out. There you go. About there. Nice and slow. There you go. You got it, Alice. You got it. You're almost already cylinder. Yeah, you are doing that. Yeah. You're doing. Yeah. All right, careful. You gotta let. Yeah. You got it.
That's awesome.
I just won't make
When
it
we go
large.
back, maybe, or when we're done, maybe we'll go back to the other
Yeah.
one and do it small.
Pop up.
So pop-up, we actually do throw mugs, like the way that we throw everything else. We use mugs that are from the mug production, and what's fun about this is for 2 years in a row, the other schools have had to come to our booth and get the mugs because they haven't made enough mugs to even continue with theirs, so the judges will say like, oh, go ahead and go to Red Creek has the most mugs, so you get like a little shout out there. So they'll take their mugs, and it's kind of like skee ball. There's 3 trash bins that are 10 feet away, 20 feet away, and 30 feet away, and they have 3 shots each. 10 feet is 1 point, 20 feet is 2 points, and 30 feet is 3 points, and they just try their best to make them in. And you can see we have Alita in the pink tutu, and Jem in the orange tutu for our school, and then we also had Kaylee and Colton. And I think, did we get 3rd for this event?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there was only one event that out of the 6 events that we didn't place in the top 4 for. How we got 2nd, yeah, we did really well.
Our last event for Feats of Clay is called coil building. So coil building, this one's difficult because you have to battle with any of the elements that we're working with weather-wise. So wind, rain, anything like that. Luckily it wasn't windy this day, and also it wasn't raining, because rain, when it gets to the coils, will start to kind of give it, make them softer. And the purpose of the coil building is you have to stack the tallest tower. So every single person that we bring with us participates in the coil building. Whereas most of the smaller teams, the teams of 4, those were students that would come after school and practice with us from 3:30 to 5:30. That was a set team. With coil building, it was anyone that we brought with us on the field trip. We had small sections of coils that were placed around our table, and then we had to take these small stacks, and then we had to strategically place them together to make the tallest stack. This year we came in first for this event, and we had 57 inches, I want to say, which was massive because that's honestly, I think, the highest that we've ever gotten in the coil stack. But also, you have this really tall tower that was standing next to you, and everybody's like, trying to protect it around it so that way if it fell, you put your hands on it. At the timer, you have to take your hands off so you can't support it in any way. And if the tower falls over before the judge measures it, then it doesn't count, or whatever it is when it falls. The height is what goes.
Do you have a picture of Yeah, the fun?
yes.
Okay, yeah. We also had, again, we had other students coming over asking to take photos with the tower, and other judges and other teachers coming over.
And this thing was sturdy. It was not falling
Yeah.
over. We literally had to push it over, which that's never happened to Red Creek before. Usually it's like they'll measure it and then it'll fall over immediately.
This is really fun because for our students that are super, super intelligent, not just in the arts, they can help us come up with strategies. So Ethan Hanford, yeah. He unfortunately just found out the week before our events, or our competition, that he wouldn't be able to go because of his science test. So the AP science test?
I think so.
Yeah.
History. It was history, because it's 9%.
So he wasn't able to go, and he came to every single practice, so it was a huge hit for him, and it was awful. But he's who helped us come up with this design on the bottom to make it sturdier, because he is so intelligent, and we were trying to figure out how we could get the weight on the bottom to hold all the weight on the top, because you can make a tower super, super tall, but the more you add it up, eventually it's gonna start collapsing. And then he just comes in with all his brain skills, and he's like, oh, we should do this, we should do this. And like teaches us pretty much Jenga with clay. And that's how we did it, and that's how we won. And everybody came over, and so now next year we have to come up with something different, because everybody's gonna be using this technique. So we need to come up with something stronger, so we'll reach out to Mr. Bonanno. We're gonna be stronger next year.
We're going to contact the class and see.
But
if
it's really
there's-
fun to like mix, science with art.
Yeah, see if there's maybe another way that we're not thinking of to stack this clay to get it the tallest, and maybe give them a bag of clay and say, here, see what you guys can come up with, and then we can kind of watch the
So there's a lot
strategies.
of nights of trial and error with this competition, yeah.
Wow.
This is this is Feats of Clay 28, and it was that big group shot there. There is a trophy that goes home with the winning team every year, and each school will add on a portion of the trophy. So every year the trophy will just continue to get larger, and then at a certain point they will hold on to that trophy and then they'll start a new one. Do we have a picture of the trophy on
Yeah,
there?
it's on the first slide, or the second slide.
I'm just gonna roll back.
You guys will see it next year when we bring it home.
So this is the trophy. You can see that each year the school that wins adds like a portion onto their piece, onto the trophy, and it's just something that can be attached onto it. And it's a really cool concept because that trophy gets to be displayed in that the winning home.
Nice.
So this is Brian. He is one of our 7th graders, and last year he was our newest. He was a 6th grader, so that was the first time that he started having classes in the middle school, and he is phenomenal on the wheel. So he loved coming to our practices and just being a part of it. So he would take all of our notes, he would take all of our scores, and anytime someone needed a fill-in, he would come and be our fill-in. And so he got really, really good at feats of clay, just being in 6th grade. Unfortunately, it's only for 9th through 12th. So we felt really bad not bringing him. So last year he came to Feats of Clay as our mascot. And then he was like our little spy. So anytime we thought that we needed him to go and look at other schools, he would just go and peek at the other schools and be like, okay, this is what you guys are up against. And so this year he came to the practices, he helped out, and so now he's just gonna keep being a member of our team, and so he can actually start practicing and helping out and being in 9th grade and being on the team. So this is Oliver getting his hair. Was it blue?
That was just straight hair blue, putting in his hair, and then we sprayed
Yeah.
like blue and all sorts of rainbow colors.
So this is him getting festive.
We almost had to pin him for that.
Along with the Feats of Play event, there's also an art show, and there are different awards like the Senior Award, Award of Excellence in honor of Peter Valenti, teapots, hand-built, wheel thrown, and wall pieces. And this is just an amazing show because every school participates and has at least 5 pieces that go into it, so you're top-notch. A lot of senior work. Oliver had a beautiful tea set that was placed into the show and actually made it onto the poster of Feats of Clay. Although we didn't bring any awards home this year in the Feats of Clay award ceremony, we're going to aim for next year, and always we're continuing to put our students' work out there as well. Here's the poster, and there would be sorry it's very small, but there's the picture here.
And then the gray poster is last year's. And the duck that you see in the first column, the 3rd one down, is Bernita Haas. And then these are just some photos from last year, just to show how fun the kids have. And it's such a good vibe, and it's totally different than, you walk in and it's like you're walking into a cloud of fun. So,
Definitely.
And if there's anything that you would like to like for you to take away from this presentation, hopefully this works. It's really cool.
Who's gonna win? Aw. Who's gonna win?
just in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
And just some a little bit of backpedaling. So Feats of Play this upcoming year will determine another theme for our group. Although we did win the Spirit Award for our amazing looks, and I really think that it was a lot of your hair as well. And that Spirit Award came with $100 attached to it as well, and also a gold certificate. So, do you guys have any questions for us?
Looks like a lot of fun. Congratulations on the
It is a whole
poster.
lot of fun. There's a whole lot of involvement with the students as well, like the outfits. We had completely made those ourselves. They're all hand painted and everything. Wow.
Oliver, I saw your tea set in Fairhaven at the art studio this past weekend. I didn't know that it was yours, but it was a sight to see for sure. It was phenomenal.
Spent months on it.
I bet you did, those tiny little pieces, and it was very nice.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We gotta work that Red Creek thing in more often. Okay. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to see the minutes from the regular meeting from May 10th. I have a motion, please. Mrs. Dingman and a second by Mrs. Allen. Any questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving on. All right, the consent agenda. I'm gonna make a little bit of a change. Okay, that's the best thing. So, I would take a motion for, please hold, the first 7 items under E, please, if anyone would agree. Mrs. Bliss?
1 through 7?
I'll
Yes,
second.
please. Thank you, Mr. Nodine.
Is there any way to number
In case I can't count.
No.
So that would be Michael Ware
Yeah.
through Christopher Blake.
So this is,
I just took that as enter. Okay. Any questions about this group? Okay.
how long does the fingerprint printing take? I mean, because some of these are pending fingerprint clearance, do they take long?
That's pretty quick now.
usually it's like
Yeah.
2 days,
Few
Okay.
sometimes.
Good.
Okay. When you're ready.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Damon?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, the next item, Mr. McDonald. Could I please have a motion in a second?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Dates. In a second. Mrs. Allen? Any questions? When you're ready.
Mrs. Damon?
No.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
No.
And Mrs. Madigan. Sorry, I'm like, looked up.
I get a vote this time? Yes, thank you. Okay, I would take a motion for the next, section, which is all of the summer program lists. I'm not gonna attempt to, okay.
How about if we say,
Yeah.
yeah, the entire list that starts with Snyder, Becky Snyder, all the way down to
Gibbons,
Gibbons.
yep. Mrs. Kaiser and Mrs. Damon, please. Any questions?
Are any of these graduating seniors?
Yes.
Yes.
So then are you also paying for fingerprints for them?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer. Yes, we are. I do know the answer. Yes, we are.
That we are, we're not having the kids pay that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Macaluso can answer after a minute. Okay, when you're ready.
Ready? Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mrs. Damon?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Abstain,
Abstain.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. I saw you mark me in the yes
I
column.
like this.
Okay, moving on. Can I have a motion for both resignations, please? Mrs. Dingman in a second. Mrs.
Good.
Kaiser?
Can we take Missy's alone, please? And give her a separate, like we do with other resignations?
It wasn't a retirement, so I.
Oh, that's
sorry.
retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I
Is
see
that
what you're
okay?
saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, when you're ready.
Okay. Mrs. Damon?
Yes.
Mr. Dates?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Only because you said so. Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yeah.
Mrs. Madigan?
Yes. Mrs. Hoisington, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, moving on, seeing that there's no CSE and CPSE, we'll move on to new business under G.
Can I make a motion to approve 1, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for G 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you. And a second? Mrs. Bliss? Okay. Any questions for, one more time, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6?
Yeah, we, on the, Spanish trip, we got that complete outline that they promised on the right. The computer's not bringing it up. There you go. Outlining everything adequately that meets all of our needs for a trip,
Yes.
you know, for out of country.
Yep.
You know, because it's not like just going down to Washington DC.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this would be a rolling thing too, right? I mean, as far as it looks like a lot of the stuff on there was anticipated, you know,
Right.
for trip being out
Mhm.
18 months or something. I'm sure that there's more to update the closer it is as far as
Yeah,
chaperones
the
and things like
advisors
that.
worked with the principals on putting all this together, and so a lot went into it.
Yeah, they just, you know, that we meet all the needs that we have for the safety of kids going that far away.
Yep.
This is just the initial push through, and then we'll go more granular as it gets closer.
Well, we're approving
The
the
trip.
trip,
Right. So I don't,
so we can't put the brakes on it later, this will help.
Correct.
no,
Right.
no, but as far as like the chaperones or the granular things that will come later.
Are we concerned about this trip rather than like Costa Rica or?
So I wonder if is the question, will we know in 6 months from now that there's actually 40 students going as opposed to
okay.
20 students, or is there more to look into? Right, exactly, or is there more to look into as we get closer? Or I assume that nothing would come through the board formally, since we're
Correct.
approving the trip, and possibly maybe just a FYI update from the high school principal or something like that.
Right. Or if there was some world event that made it,
Cool.
you know,
Change things.
hope there's
Yeah.
never is again, but
I would certainly expect the leadership involved there to be able to use good judgment on that as well. I mean,
right.
The only thing I would be interested to see is that Mrs. Pitts had talked about the cost, that these can be kind of costly trips, and what, maybe what our trend is for the amount of students that are able to participate through these trips. You know, and if the
So-
number's going down, maybe we find a way to help fundraise.
Somebody asked that question last minute.
Yeah,
And this,
yeah.
you hate to have any student eliminated because of that kind of cost.
could you create scholarships and things
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah,
for that?
Yeah.
that's what I
That'd
was
be
wondering.
good to look into and put out there to the public.
Any other questions?
Yes, one thing, I was reading through it earlier today, and it says that the scholarships are awarded from the interest earned annually. And we must be earning a good amount of interest to be able to.
I'm assuming you're referring to 3 and 4, the
Yeah.
2 scholarships?
Yeah,
Or just one?
The 2 scholarships. Those awards are how much? Does it say?
I can tell you that.
Are we still working off of just interest for those scholarships?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think that's what we have been annually. So it's a matter of how it's invested, right?
Maybe the scholarship is adjusted based on the interest that comes out.
Interest rate, right, yeah, it's not the same every year.
No, that's not the right one. So the Conroy
Mhm.
is $100.
Okay.
And
And it's a $20,000 trust.
Right.
yeah, I was gonna say it's a lot. How much is that thing though?
It doesn't say.
I don't understand why it's listed in weird alphabetical order. Oh, it's 500 for Frost.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we were in, you know, those scholarships were in good standing, in a good place to be able to continue to pull from just the interest as we look, you know, going forward. But if we're still working out of just off the interest, then that's good. Thanks.
Anything else?
You're ready.
Okay. Mr. Dates,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss.
Yep.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mrs. Dignan,
Yes.
and Mrs. Madigan.
Yes, thank you. Could I have a motion for G2? Approval of the, thank you, Mrs. Kaiser,
Yeah.
and a second by Mr. Dates.
Okay.
Questions?
Ready?
You're ready.
Mr. Nodine,
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss,
Yes.
Mr. Dates.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser,
Yes.
Mrs. Dignan,
Nope.
and Mrs. Madigan.
Yes.
Mrs. Madigan, there's our CSE.
I didn't list them on that, they're on the computer, sorry.
Keeping it exciting, that's all.
I can't look at two places, so I've stopped using it. I'm trying to
Sorry.
focus on my
You
paper.
under the computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't think anybody else behind you is waving to me either, so.
Sorry, I'm like,
Hey, Kate, you're about to look.
sorry.
No worries. All right, so, you have that completed?
Yes.
We'll back up, and I'll take back my comment that there's no CSE or CPSE recommendations. Thank you, Mrs. Bliss, as well. Could I have a a motion for that, please? F1. Thank you, Mrs. Dingman. I'm on the wrong board packet. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Mrs. Kaiser. You know, feel free to jump in when you see me looking like that.
I have the wrong board packet, put it where.
Yeah, a board packet. Any questions on these, that they do exist? Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Great, moving on. Okay, could I have a motion please for G7, second reading? Thank you, Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. So from the last time, there was the correction from the number of days. I believe that was the only correction that we spoke about, but we're happy to have more conversation about this too, if we think this is a good idea.
So, again, we talked a lot about it last time, Kate. We talked, excuse me, on A, you know, it's open for public and is invited to attend and invited to speak. As part of our meeting. During that time, comment can be made on any subject on the agenda, is the way it's listed. What are we gonna do if somebody has something that has come up that's not on the agenda?
That's the purpose of the form, for them to submit the form.
Submit the form, but, okay. They submit the form when they come in? Would they carry it in or fill it in when they get here? That's just to be, you know, thinking about our last discussion about, we'll always have an opportunity for open forum.
Right.
But would they have this form available to them to sign and say, I've got a note on XYZ?
It's my understanding that no. Well, the last time I think we talked about it, the idea would be that it would be an electronic version on the website.
Mhm.
That form wouldn't be here, and I guess I would say unless we kept copies if you wanted to take a copy with you, because the idea is that it would be added to the agenda.
For the next
It needs to
meeting?
be
I
submitted
feel
3
like
days
there
prior.
should be two options, like, because there's a lot of tech savvy people that would do this online.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people in our district that are not tech savvy, that
Right.
would rather come and, like, just stop in, grab the form, fill it out, and then bring it back. Like, I'm just saying, I know there's some families, even parents, that don't have electronic access at home, so that would be, if we're only putting it online.
I just meant you wouldn't come in here today, pick up a form, fill it out, and hand it to
Yeah, they would need,
us.
they
It
would have
be-
to pick it up ahead of time, fill it out, drop it back off.
Right, I
ahead of
think,
time.
It needs to be submitted 3 days prior to the meeting that they wanna speak at.
So I think that I like the idea of what I think the thought is behind this, which is to put stuff that people want to talk about on the agenda so other people know about it, so they could come and be a part of that discussion or hear what we have to say or whatever. What I'm hearing today that I thought we had said differently last time is that we in essence are closing open forum. It's not going to be open for people to come in anymore.
Well, it will
So-
be if they're talking about something that's on the agenda.
Right,
There's a
so
difference between an
if
open
it's,
forum and a public forum, though. That's terminology we need to.
So
You
I
understand.
think
Okay.
that, I think that the idea behind it was to, I understand what you're saying. Geez, now I can't come and, speak about something that I think needs to be brought to the board. I think there's exceptions to every rule, and if there was some sort of emergency that something major happened and 40 district members showed up because they were so upset and they didn't submit it 3 days before, that would be something to consider. But the idea is most times, unless, in my experience, I have never seen someone come to a board meeting to talk about something that's not on the agenda, that's an emergency. So if there was a concern or something, that it couldn't be added to the next board meeting or something like that. And really aside from that, most times it has something to do with something that's already on the agenda. So for example, we only had Mr. Curtis here last week, who was speaking about an item that was already on there. There was,
What about, like, for example, there was a gentleman who, I can't think of his name, but he was here, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, around the time that that survey had went out, the equity survey,
Yep.
whatever. And that wasn't on the agenda, but he brought stuff to open session that we weren't all aware of. So are we saying that that wouldn't be able to happen, or he would have to fill one of these out?
well, that would be a really good example. So the idea would be that he would fill one out 3 days ahead of time, because then, now it's on the agenda. So if you're at home and you're thinking, yeah, I have the same problem, you could send in a note, you could also come to speak to it, so it didn't look like one parent sitting here, or one parent that had a concern that maybe others did. Or maybe you come to the next board meeting and we're having that same conversation separately.
And I agree that that would be better served to be on the agenda, so then we can have discussion, but I guess my question is, say that happens on a Monday, that survey's given on a Monday and we meet on Wednesday. So that student goes home, talks to their parents about, you know, and I'm just using the survey as an example, but talks to their parents about the survey. Parents are upset. Then they gotta wait sometimes maybe an entire month before they can come back.
But I would state that your first chain of command would not be the Board of Education. in
That's
that
true,
case.
okay,
It should always be somebody else before it gets here.
right,
Right.
And if it's that important and it comes to the board, then
it's,
it can probably wait 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
okay.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that we're working on honoring chain of command. We have been since I've been here, and that is a perfect example because that was all a misunderstanding. So
If it would have followed.
if that would have followed the chain of command, we could have cleared it up, and it doesn't give
Okay.
people the opportunity to jump right to the Board of Education and over the rest of the chain of command.
Well, we
That
have,
makes sense.
I thought Stephanie was going in one other direction, but, you know, like we've had a couple times persons concerned about bus driving when they're low, you know, so that was affecting them, or several about that. And, you know, when you look at the schedule, there might be one meeting a month. Like, it could be, a lot of days have transpired before they could have that opportunity. If it wasn't on that, say, September agenda, and they didn't fill one out, they've gotta wait till October. If they had that issue coming into September, just before the meeting, I just am concerned about ever having a boundary line that didn't allow there to be an opportunity for somebody that really wanted to speak, have that opportunity to speak, you know? That's a concern.
Well, I think they can always
Always-
present an email to the superintendent, and it can get passed into, you know, the
Right.
board if it's appropriate,
Correct.
or a letter, right?
Right.
And, yeah, maybe that needs to be then nicely spelled out, if this is gonna be on the website, and some of the design. Us sitting here talking about it is one thing, but there's a whole public out there that doesn't grasp all the points, or,
But I
you
also
know.
feel like sitting here, maybe we don't all grasp all the points, cause I get the intention of it, I get the point of it. But I do have the same concerns as Brad, with people not being able to come in and openly speak.
Me as well.
I appreciate Greg's reminder too, that
Following the chain
we're
of
trying to
command.
honor the chain of command, right? So that should like trump everything, where everyone kind of pauses and thinks like, hey, should I, do this first,
I think we need to empower the people that are in those positions that are capable to take care of those things.
right?
Well, and that's what the education would come, that's what, there needs to be a nice clarity that supports that chain of command design.
We can put that right on the
Near
website
the
with,
chain of command.
with this, that
Perfect.
Yeah, if
this
that's
is the
the
chain of
case.
command before you come to the board.
Love it.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
other thing is too, it be a schedule
I-
that Red Creek had, that would be on the website, it used to go home with the kids. Or in
Was it in the calendar?
the calendar packet,
Yeah,
of
at
what
the
the chain
beginning.
command is, you have this
Right.
issue, this is who you go to.
I
right.
think it's still gonna be there. In the
Me-
back somewhere, in there somewhere.
The other thing is,
It's
if,
there somewhere.
if it doesn't work,
Mhm.
we'll make changes, it
Right.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be
Good.
set in stone, but I do think that it takes some courage out of people to come here sometimes when they feel like they're standing all on their own to speak about it.
True.
Maybe if there really is a concern that's a little bit bigger than what we actually see, when it should be coming to the board, that would give people a little bit of an opportunity to know what's gonna be discussed.
I like this form, keep pointing at this form, but I do agree with Brad, and I agree with Stephanie. I don't think anybody here is saying that we should by any means encouraged to not follow the chain of command. I think that all of our first responses, this should be where you go first. I think one thing we've talked about a lot with this board is transparency and making sure the community feels like they're not being censored, and I know that that is not the intention of this, but it does kind of come across like that a
Perceptions are
little bit.
realities. Perception can turn into a reality.
It's
So-
funny, because I saw it exactly the opposite way. I thought it was like, okay, well, these are even public concerns
Mhm.
that we're gonna discuss, because otherwise you've gotta wait for your neighbor to be like, did you catch the video? They talked about this in public
I
forum.
think we should definitely use this.
But maybe it needs
My
some
thought
tweaking.
isn't to use one or the other.
Mhm.
Like, can't we use and encourage this? But if by chance somebody,
Misses or doesn't realize because
Misses or-
they're not watching tonight and they don't know we're having this conversation. And then in 2 weeks, someone wants to come in, and I'm just using 2 weeks hypothetically, but 2 weeks, they come in and wanna speak, and then we're like, oh, well, you needed to do this form, and so maybe like some sort of like transition.
I think we're gonna have to do that. Most people are probably not going to know today
Right.
that you have to fill out this form, so the next person that comes in and wants to speak, maybe that's when we say, hey, there's copies up there or out there on the website, the next time that you need to bring something to the board, and it might really give us an opportunity to prepare and answer or information too, because we typically don't respond.
is that the plan, that if we get one of these and we put it on the agenda, that we're planning to publicly respond to?
I think
Or
it,
would we still have
Eh?
it respond, right, do you respond at that moment, or do you say thank you very much and then
I
have
think
somebody
it's-
respond back?
Yeah, I think you get back to them.
So could we add that, like have a letter D to state, you will not receive a response that evening, but you will receive a written response within 7 days?
Mhm.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of, we were putting it on the agenda so that it's a topic of conversation that people could be aware of and say, oh, I wanna know about that, but if it's gonna go on the agenda and then we're just gonna read the concern and then not do anything with
I don't
it.
think a lot of the answers that we could even answer.
Right, I don't disagree with that.
Alexander came in at the beginning of the year and,
Yeah.
rightfully so, had very valid points. We couldn't have answered her.
Right.
It was something for the superintendent to take care of.
Right.
but
Or if-
hypothetically, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If it's a board decision, it has to be a collective decision, so none of us can answer that individually anyway. It has to go into a session and we have to discuss what our options or thoughts are on it, and then we have to come up to a conclusion. So I don't know how we can possibly answer any individual that comes in here with a concern immediately, even if it's written 3 days ahead, without having a chance to discuss it as a board.
Right.
And that legally has to be done in meeting, so.
But if there were 10 other parents that felt the way that Patty Alexander did, and it was on the agenda, we might have been able to hear maybe 2 minutes from everyone because it was on the agenda and they're here to speak about it. You know, they don't all necessarily, not every person that wants to talk about something has to fill this form out, because if it's on the agenda, they're open to speak about it.
Right.
But you can afford more time to it because it's
Right.
on the agenda, is what you're
Right,
stating.
right,
Yeah.
it's not, now you're not in this 30 minutes where there's 30 people here and you all get a minute, that's it.
Yeah, that could work. And actually Greg is right, he's done the work at trying to, even when people have come about trying to respond, you know, that we're gonna get that information to person X to be able to respond to it. So that you've started that thought of chain of command response. But, you know, Nancy's point of a D on there about how this may be responded to, you know. So there's some, seems like it's has workability with some tweak and understanding.
Let's move forward with it and see if it works, and if not, then we'll bring it back to the drawing board, right? We're gonna do it in printable form, or not printable, but
A Google Doc. or
yeah,
some
Google
sort.
Doc.
Couple,
We can have some
Fillable
here at the
form.
next
And
meeting,
paper,
yeah.
Mhm.
well, I think they should probably be housed in,
The DO.
yeah.
Yeah, people
I
can come
think-
pick one up.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we wanted to have them here too, not to
Oh,
fill
okay.
out, but if you wanted to take it with you, like you said, and bring it back at another time or something.
So if we're gonna respond via email, it does say method of contact, but if we're gonna respond in writing, do we do mail or do we have a snail mail
We do.
or,
We also need to fix the word contact because it's spelled
Yeah.
wrong.
listen to you?
So just,
To include their mailing address?
Yeah, because snail mail may be the only thing for a few.
Right.
So, do we just need to add, an option for preferred contact, cause their address is above?
doesn't it say preferred method of
yes.
contact at the bottom?
Yeah, so what I mean is,
Preferred
do you wanna,
Mind.
is that okay?
I wanna hop back 1 second about, let's say we have something on the agenda, 10 people come in and wanna speak on that item on the agenda. It's something that's already, let's say, gone through all the chains of command and it gets here, and all those 10 people are wondering about this item, since we don't address it in public, and we're responding to the one person that asked about it. How do we address that with all of the other people? Do we get their contact information too?
So we talked about this a few years ago, about actually posting on the, Board of Education section of the website about basically like frequently asked questions or questions from the last board meeting, and it wouldn't be who the question came from, but it would be, this is gonna be generic, but are you hiring new bus drivers? We're trying.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you could go there,
Yeah.
you could go there and possibly see the answer, and maybe that's something.
Updated monthly?
Yeah, but- and maybe that's something that we address publicly, at the beginning of a meeting. Please be aware that the questions from the last public, forum are posted on our website. Feel free to visit them and, you know, and check out the answers, or however we want to put it.
You know, I'm thinking about, like, that you're talking about numbers of maybe a group of persons
Mhm.
have a shared concern. Somebody has submitted, you know, and they know it's on the agenda. That's another reason to keep the video going, to keep, because some people are, they see it on the agenda, they know it's there. They're not coming in because they know the board's gonna address it. They wanna witness it being addressed, you know? So videoing is a good means to communicate to not just the person who submitted, but everybody else that might have an interest on that particular piece, you know? I know videoing there's a question about it being required anymore, whether you have to use, but it's today's technology and a means of communication.
That's a different vote, Brad.
Well,
No.
that might be a different vote, but the point is, if
It
we're
would be a
u-
means of
just the way we
information.
talked about this tool, and where there might be a large number of people that have a shared concern, rather than them coming in and listening in person, because that's their only mean, the video
Mhm.
helps address that for them.
Good point.
And that's, using the word that Jolene used, that's transparency, That's the word we've used right along.
Other comments, questions, more discussion? We okay to vote?
Could we add the D, like, we will not respond back?
But what if sometimes we do, like, what if it?
You can say you may not receive
An
an answer at the meeting.
So could we make an,
Amendment?
yep, but I don't. Who was it? Who made the motion? I'm sorry, Missy.
That's okay. It was Stephanie Kaiser first and Jolene was second.
We make the amendment to add D with the comment you may not receive.
Yes,
answer.
and to also add preferred method of contact, we're changing the word contact, the spelling. And also at the bottom, and also adding,
Mail address.
USPS.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say we can't just put snail mail.
Yeah.
Sounds more fun than.
Mrs. Bliss, would you
Yes.
second that?
Yes, I will say.
And actually, the other thing that's right before that, district resident, technically, we don't have to answer questions to persons not in district,
Right? That's very true. Very
you
true.
know.
So you wanted to say something like, if you check no, don't keep filling it out, stop
No,
here.
but,
No, this year,
but then,
Jump right to the
the
end.
part of the conundrum to this is, you may have a split family, and a parent that's well invested in their child's education may not be in the district.
Yeah, well, the good thing about this is too, is
Well,
that
maybe
we're a
they'll
small
use their
district.
spouse's address.
Yeah. Put down a
Their
yes.
ex-spouse.
Okay, so the changes are adding of D. And D will be that you may not receive, an answer, at the meeting, the correction to contact at the bottom. Missy, I just missed a whole section of the agenda, don't worry. You did not make the biggest mistake. And then also an option to put your mailing address as the form of contact. So the motion by Mrs. Kaiser and second by Mrs. Bliss. Any other conversation? Okay, when you're ready.
Mrs. Dayton? Mr. Diggs?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mrs. Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Nodine?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
And Mrs. Madigan?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Macaluso, did you have anything?
We still have number 2 under new business.
We did that one already.
You did?
It was 6-1.
Oh, okay. I thought she said 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
She
No,
did
we
do
did
that.
that.
We went back and did number 2.
Yeah, we
right?
did it.
Okay.
Mhm. You're just trying to make me look good, it's working.
Redemption.
Thank
Good
goodness.
job, Madam President.
Yeah.
I do not have any.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're gonna get a quick policy committee update for Mrs. Allen.
Just wanted to share really briefly that all of the active policies are now uploaded to Board Docs, so we can go in there and view those. And then there's some drafted policies that we have gone through, and we have some changes to those, so those will be updated hopefully shortly. Just want to let everyone know that the active ones are available now, so that'll be great.
Great. Any questions for the policy committee? Okay, fantastic. I have a couple of things, so thank you for the replies on the working calendar for next year for board meetings. Mrs. Allen and I are working on that, so we'll have something, a more definite schedule at the June 7th meeting. And also an updated, we haven't had a chance to fully investigate the committee option, so we'll do that on June 7th as well. I know that there was a question about the reorg meeting, so we can discuss that at that time as well. Other than that, does anyone have anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Greg, just accounts payable, we're working on filling that slot,
Yes, very close.
very close. Good.
Yep.
All right, good. Kind of
And we
important
are
role.
actually hiring bus drivers.
Okay.
What's that?
But down
I
the,
said we
we're
are
hiring
actually
bus
hiring
drivers.
bus drivers too.
Bus drivers, they can account payable too?
But yeah. Okay, then I would take a motion to move into executive for a particular personnel matter. Thank you, Mrs. Kaiser, and a second by Mrs. Bliss. Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
Ready, honestly.
Fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks a lot.
I don't do that,
Just so
they'll
I
work
can
in
like
a
scratch
cafeteria
my
or
eyeballs or
something.
something.
You know, probably, you'll you've been in it long enough. They've had it.
Man, missed those recommendations. Like a big smack in the face.
I looked at mine
That's-
and I'm like,
Yeah,